Okay, I don't know what crazy portal that daggone Cat Williams opened up at the beginning of the year, but this Kendrick and Drake beef, baby, we need to talk because K not gonna have me screaming out all summer A minor. Hi everybody, it's your girl Lauren Gill, the founder and chief power specialist at Power Publicity, and I want to welcome you to my new series called We Need to Talk. Now, We Need to Talk is going to be our space where we talk about all the latest industry trends, issues, topics, and even some things in pop culture to basically glean what can we learn from it and apply it to our businesses and organizations. And today, I want to touch on the Kendrick versus Drake beef. Now, I don't know if you realize, but this beef has gone even way beyond the hip hop community. You have the president using Euphoria, one of the diss tracks by Kendrick Lamar, as the background music for one of his re-election campaign ads. You have MSNBC did a segment on a beef and what does it mean for our overall culture as Americans and how we relate to each other and relate to facts and how we view things and communicate and just all of those stuff. Pretty interesting segment. You should check it out. We also have reporters asking the tennis girlies what they think about the beef. So this is way more ubiquitous than I think some people realize. And of course, I want to sit here and just talk about the branding, PR, and marketing lessons that we can learn from it. Now, of course, I have my thoughts about who won and all this other kind of stuff, but we're not really going to get into that today. I'm really going to keep it mainly to the lessons that we can learn from a PR and marketing standpoint. That's going to be the whole focus of this discussion. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing that we can learn from this Kendrick versus Drake beef is the value of authenticity. One of the things that Drake has been criticized continuously throughout his reign in hip hop is that for essentially, I'm gonna use the words that people use, he exploits other cultures. 1 minute, like there's a running joke, like 1 minute we gonna get Jamaican Drake, and then the next minute we might get Atlanta Drake or Houston Drake or, maybe UK or Afrobeat. It's that, he have all these different accents and switches up his sound and things like that in order to be relevant and make money. Now, on the surface, is that necessarily a bad thing? No. It has allowed him to be relatable. It has allowed him to reach across demographics and basically be the biggest hip hop star for essentially over the last 15 years. However, in a culture that values authenticity, and a culture that values Black empowerment, and is somewhat rooted in, that was birthed out of Black struggle and the upliftment of Black people, and it's also based on, where you're from. It's also where you're from has a lot to do with it. Like back in like old, I feel old by saying this, but back in the olden days and previous eras of hip hop, it was very regional. Like different regions had different sounds, and a lot of people that have critiques for Drake say is like, well, we don't really know who Drake is because he basically is a chameleon. He takes on so many different cultures. You're from Toronto. Why is it that we not know basically the stuff from Toronto, and you were like the biggest rap star from Toronto? That is like one of the biggest critiques he has had throughout his time, particularly from some of like the older gatekeepers when he was coming into the game. Versus Kendrick is throughout his time, and he's been in the industry for pretty much the same amount of time, is that he's been the same person. Like we know he's a guy that's going to talk about faith. He's going to talk about his time growing up in Compton. He's going to talk about his indiscretions like he did on his last album with Mr. Morale. He's going to talk about just upliftment of Black people and things that we go through. He delves into a lot of different topics that is rooted in like the essence of hip hop. And for the most part, he's been consistent throughout this time. And one of the things when I say we can just learn as far as the value of authenticity is that as far as whatever image, whatever story that you are presenting to the public, that you are sharing with your audience, make sure that it is real, authentic, and even if it's something where, because sometimes I've seen companies, they'll do this. Like for a marketing campaign, they may create like a character or avatar or something like that to promote something. At least make sure it's believable. It has to be believable. It has to be authentic, because in this day and age, people can spot BS a mile away. The internet is very crafty. They will pull up receipts. So if essentially you're out here not being truthful about who you are, about, you know, who you serve, or how like your products or services help people, then it's a wrap. Like eventually people will see through you, and your business and organizations can take a major hit. So whatever you do, keep it authentic. The next thing I want to talk about how is your reputation is everything. Throughout this beef, we heard some nasty, and I mean some nasty allegations being thrown on both sides. Okay? Like, these allegations, if we want to be for real, somebody need to get the police people and investigate the people on the line. Because there's some very serious allegations that have been thrown by both men against each other. And of course, we don't really have any evidence, concrete evidence, that any of these things are true. Really, what we're operating is basically the perception based on who we've known these people to be, both of these individuals, both of these men, over the last 15 years. With Kendrick, you have somebody who keeps a very low profile. He really hasn't done a lot of interviews within the last 7 years. He's dropped his music, gone on his tours, and that's pretty much it. He pretty much lives a quiet life. He makes his art and he goes. Versus Drake, who is very visible, highly visible, always on the internet, always, as we talked about previously, always switching up his style, doing, you know, not necessarily doing interviews, but he definitely basically plays into the internet. He likes to be on the internet and be visible, and he'll go out to different events and things like that. He likes to be on the scene. And to be honest with you, it's nothing wrong with either one of those things. Like, depending on how you decide to go. It just depends on who you are targeting and what is best for your business and organization. It's not really a right or a wrong way versus whether you want to be very highly visible amongst the general public, or you just want to be, you know, more visible and cater to like a specific demographic and kind of operate more in a niche space where people know you there, and you pretty much have like a very, it's not, your marketing is not dependent on a lot of basically stunts and things like that. It's not necessarily a right or wrong. It just works best for you. But one thing I will say about this, with high visibility comes responsibility. And when things go wrong, you must take accountability. You must take accountability for what it is that you do. And one of the things that we've seen with these allegations, as far as public perception is concerned, is that when Drake allegedly said Kendrick is physical with his partner, a lot of people have a hard time believing that, based on the public perception that we have known this person to be throughout his time in the industry. And plus, there is no, as far as we know, concrete evidence to say that those allegations are true. As of yet, there's no concrete allegations. Versus on the other side, with Drake and him allegedly being a schmedophile. I have to say it for that, for YouTube purposes. But allegedly, you know, him doing inappropriate things with underage girls. The thing about that is there have been news stories about him, about Drake, having relationships as a grown man with teenage girls. One of them being Millie Bobby Brown at the time. And he brought it up to kind of say, like, basically in one of his songs, one of his responses to basically brush it off and say it was nothing. However, if you go back around the time in 2018, I believe Millie Bobby Brown did a interview with Access Hollywood, and she talked about her relationship with Drake. And of course, in her eyes, it's just like, oh, it's fun, and he's my friend, and blah, 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 blah. But a lot of people was giving him the side eyes to say, like, well, but baby girl, like, you are a teenager, and this is a grown man in his 30s. That is inappropriate for you to have that type of relationship where you're texting each other back and forth. And even though you're entertainers, there is that power dynamic. There is that line of him being a grown man and you being a teenage girl, which we know can cause a whole lot of problems. So that within the context of this beef is why, like, even though no one has any concrete evidence to believe any of the allegations that either one of these men have said are true, based on the public perception, based on how both of these men move, it was easier for people to believe one set of allegations versus the other. And that is why I say it is important to move with integrity and to have integrity in your business and in your organization. You definitely want to make sure that all of your staff, all of your employees are on one accord as far as your values and how you move. Because here's the thing, even if you as an executive, as a CEO, you move with a sense of ethics, you move with integrity, you have your protocols and your procedures, you know that sometimes you may have somebody that will go rogue and mess up everything for you. And that can be a disaster. So that's one of the things you definitely want to make sure you have in place. Also, the importance of moving in integrity is, like, God forbid, if someone comes at you with some kind of crazy story about that, try to take a hit to your reputation, that if people have known you to be one way for a particular time period, and you've been operated with a sense of, above moral high ground, then when something comes out, people will be like, okay, well, wait a minute. I know I see this. I know now because we have seen so much crazy stuff within the last, I would say, decade. But particularly a little bit of the last 4 years, maybe 8, it's been really crazy. That a lot of times people are kind of, although they may be shocked, they're not necessarily surprised. They may not put anything past a particular individual, but at least they'll be more willing to give you the benefit of the doubt, and it'll be much easier for you to recover from a particular crisis. That's why it's always important to move with a sense of integrity. And now that kind of also gets into my next thing, is about, God forbid, if you do find yourself in something, you want to recover gracefully. And what I mean by that is that you definitely want to take some time to take stock of what happened. If we're being honest, for lack of better words, as a culture, as a collective, Drake took one of the biggest L's of the year. Like, this is going to be a very long summer for him. I mean, one of the diss tracks is the #1 song in the country. I started this video saying how the president of these United States has used one of those tracks as a background music for a re-election campaign ad. Like, that's really bad. Along with all of the allegations that's being said about him. It's like, for his reputation took a huge hit with this. Now, of course, is it a thing where he can't recover? Absolutely not. I definitely believe that he can recover and will recover. It'll just take some time. And he'll just have to go back to the drawing board. I do think that's something this is something from this beef in particular, withstanding any evidence coming out as far as of these allegations being true, that he, this is a rap beef. He can recover. But for us, when we talk as far as our business owners and like leaders at organizations, like if you find yourself in a situation where it causes your reputation to take a hit or people to question you, one of the first things you want to do is to basically take some time to do some self-reflection. See basically where things went wrong. Where did something fall in the cracks? Is it something where somebody didn't follow a process, a procedure wasn't followed, or for some reason, a customer was not satisfied and they weren't satisfied with a particular solution. Whatever it is, you definitely want to take some time to do some self-reflection in order to figure out what went wrong and how can we basically do better, prevent this from happening again, and improve our processes and procedures. Like a lot of the times when these types of crises and things happen, along with, of course, having to recover, it's an opportunity to be better. So that's the first thing you want to do. Of course, if it's something where an apology is needed, you definitely want to give a genuine apology. Of course, a lot of the times when something goes wrong, people will push and say, oh, apologize. But people will know, because like we started this conversation about authenticity, right? People will know whether your apology isn't authentic or not. They're going to know whether it's like, oh, they're just trying to save face or CYA and all that other kind of thing. So you definitely want to make a genuine apology when needed. On top of that, clean house if needed. If it's an issue where somebody was out of line or you got a group of people that are not operating, like I said, in integrity and in the values of your business, get rid of them. Get rid of them. Because at the end of the day, if you keep these people around, they're only going to continue to bring your organization down. So don't be afraid to clean house if necessary. Once you got all this stuff together, that is the time we will be able to make an appropriate statement about what happened and how you plan to move forward. And also, once you do that, like, just demonstrate it in how you move every day. Don't just make a statement and go away. No, that's something that you want to show your stakeholders every day. And of course, one of the ways people do that easy in this day and times is basically the type of content they may post on social media to show different changes that they made, how they switched up procedures and statements and things like that. Sometimes it also may be through newsletters, just any type of communication methods that people to demonstrate that like we have evolved, we're doing better. This is the things that we're doing to like not have this happen again, and this is how we're moving forward in the future. And the last thing I want to say is something that is actually more on the lighthearted sides of things. It's like the importance of creating memorable moments. One of the things that made this beef so exciting is just like the back and forth, the short amount of time span. Now, one of the things that Drake levied at Kendrick is like, oh, you take forever to drop an album, you scared. Like, he did a lot of baiting him and to respond. And when he did, he took over. So, of course, Euphoria dropped. That was a huge moment because it literally happened for, if you live on the East Coast like I do, like myself, that it happened in like basically right before lunchtime, unexpectedly on a Tuesday. That's like the whole surprise drop strategy that, like, if you want to harken back to, Beyonce, that she started with the album, it was kind of that thing. You just put it out there and it just caused a lot of excitement because it's just so unexpected. That was one of the things that was memorable. On top of that, when that following Saturday, when Drake responded, he responded with his song, and it hadn't even been out 30 minutes. And Kendrick was like, boom, whack you again. Whack you again. He had already released another track earlier, I believe in that day or the day before that. But he didn't even let that one breathe before he whacked him again. And it was that one was like the knockout punch with that one. That particular track, Meet the Grams, that was a knockout punch. That at that moment, a lot of people felt like, for lack of better words, Drake was done. Of course, he eventually did give a response, but that song was just so grimy and gritty, and it exposed so much. It was a lot, and a lot of people just felt like, bro, this thing is a done bun. So when, of course, the following day, when now the #1 song in the country, Not Like Us, came out, it was just like, whoa. And on top of that, it's a catchy song, it's a club song. It's, even though it's talking about some really dark, serious stuff, so that everybody to dance to, as you can see in the intro, it's an earworm that's been stuck in my head. It probably will be for some time. It caught on, and it just took all the sales, all the wind out of Drake's sails, and it just created a huge moment where he, now Kendrick has broke all of these streaming records. Funny enough, some of them were previously held by Drake for some of the songs that he has over the last few years. So it just created a lot of excitement, particularly in the hip hop community. Like, it created a lot of excitement. It was a good moment for people, regardless of whether all of the mudslinging. It turned out to be a really great moment for the culture at large, and that is the type of excitement that you definitely want to capture with your audience. One of the ways, of course, when you're trying to like create these moments, it's like, the thing is, you really have to know who your people are in and out. Like, what is something that they're going to respond to? And then on top of that, looking at all of your other competitors and doing something they're not doing, and not being afraid to be unconventional and go against the grain. Of course, sometimes that may create controversy, but that's not really the point. It's really to create that excitement. It's really to create that big emotional reaction where everybody's like, oh my gosh, I definitely have to support this particular business or organization. So that is another thing that we can also take from this particular beef. It's like how the importance of creating memorable moments and the type of impact that it creates. So that is all the things that I have to say from a marketing and PR point of view from this beef. If there's anything that you noticed from this beef, let me know. Drop down in the comments and give me your thoughts. Or if it's anything that you may agree with or even disagree with, give me your thoughts. Like, this whole series of We Need to Talk, this is more of an open forum. Of course, like, there will be some like informational videos as we go through some things, because there's also some other topics I want to cover where I'm going to do some more deep dives and do some more research. But for stuff like this is definitely a dialogue. So I definitely want to know what your perspectives from just a marketing PR view, how you view this particular beef, and how people can apply it from a business standpoint. And if there's any other topics within the greater industry that you want me to cover, hit me up and let me know. Drop down in the comments, and I will see you on the next episode of We Need to Talk. Bye.